Be careful how you treat people. Be careful how you treat people because you do not know. You do not know the assignment on that person's life. You do not know how anointed a person can be. You definitely don't know that can even be an angel from God. You do not know. You don't know. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I was about like 8 or 9 years old, I promise you this is going to bless y'all. When I was like 8 or 9 years old, I remember me and my brother, we were on a Greyhound bus with my mom, and we were coming back from New York, and we were going back to Florida. And I remember my mom looking at her. I was just looking at her, and she was just like crying. She was like, she didn't have enough money to get us to our destination when it came to food and everything. And I remember it was like real cold, and we didn't have like any kind of blanket or like no cover, no nothing to cover ourselves up with. And then all of a sudden, now listen to this, true story. All of a sudden, this lady, right, she got on this bus, and she was like, well, can I sit with you? And I remember she sat with my mom, and she kind of looked like she had like layers of clothes on. She had on layers of clothes. She had like this little like tore up hat a little bit. It was like tilt to the side, and she was just sitting there. She had a scarf on, and I was just looking over there, and I remember she asked my mom, she was like, is those your children? And she was like, yeah, this is my daughter and my son. And she was like, well, I have a lunchbox here. And she had like food in there. She had like sandwiches, she had snacks, she had like drinks and everything in there. She was like, here, you guys eat. And I remember me and my brother, we were over there, we were eating. And then her and my mom were still having like a little conversation or whatever. And I remember she had like stacks. She had to have about like 3 or 4 like blankets with her, and it was like I don't even know, it was just a stack of like blankets. And then she literally, I remember the bus driver had stopped at one of the stops, and it was a Dairy Queen. I'll never forget it. It was a Dairy Queen, and she was like, here's $20, go with your kids and y'all go get something to eat. And my mom was like, well, no, I can't take this, why don't you come in with us? She was like, no, take this $20 and go into Dairy Queen with your children, and I want you to go get y'all something to eat. So I remember we came in there, we got off the bus, and we went inside of the Dairy Queen, and we got something to eat. I kid you not. We got back on that bus, that lady was gone. She was completely gone. And then I remember we were sitting down, and then my mom was like, hold on, because the bus driver was getting ready to leave. And she was like, wait, it's a lady. She needs to get on this bus. And her stuff is right here, and she's sitting right next to me. And the bus driver got up, and he was like, man, what's going on? And she was explaining, like, wait, it's a lady. She needs to get on this bus. She's not here. And he was like, ma'am, there was never anyone sitting with you in the seat next to you. You've been there by yourself this whole entire time. Now, I know my eyes weren't playing tricks on me because I saw her. My brother saw her. My mother saw her. But yet now she's gone and she was never there. This is what I mean when I say you cannot treat people any kind of way. Imagine if my mom would have never allowed that lady to sit with her, or she had a nasty attitude, or she was like, oh, don't sit next to me because of how you look. I'm not with all that, or whatever the case may have been. Imagine if she would have never allowed that lady to sit on that bus with her. She would have missed her whole blessing. And then it was like about, I want to say about $80 on top of the blankets when we got back on the bus. Anybody could have took that, but they didn't. Why? Because that was from God. And this is what I mean when I say, look, God made sure we were able to eat. God made sure that my mom had money in her pocket. God made sure that we weren't cold on that bus anymore. And I'm not trying to say this to make anybody feel sorry or anything. I'm saying this as a testimony, okay? Be careful how you treat people, because you don't know who that person is. You don't know the blessing that person could literally have waiting for you, just trying to see your attitude. So sometimes you have to humble yourself. Sometimes when you see A homeless person on the street, don't just roll your eyes because you think, oh, all they're going to do is go to a corner store and just spend it on some alcohol or whatever. You don't know that. Just because you see them going into a store does not mean necessarily that that's what they're doing. They can be going on an assignment to get another person to bless them because that's what God wanted them to do. So if I see somebody and I don't have, cash on me, and I see them sitting there on the corner, I say a prayer for them. Prayer works, people. Prayer works. If I see an ambulance going by, I'm not going to just, I'm going to pray. I'm going to be like, Lord, I don't know the situation, but I know that where there is your will, there is your way. And I ask for a quick recovery. I'm not finna allow myself to miss out on anything. And this is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Do not allow your pride. Don't allow, you thinking, oh, your judgment. Do not allow your judgment to allow you to miss out on the blessing. Now, I know this was a little long video or whatever, but I had to get this out. I have been trying to get this video on here for at least the past 3 to 4 days. And this is how I know this is a word from God that he wanted y'all to hear, because it's going to bless y'all. So the only thing I really wanted to say on here is just be careful how you treat others, because you don't know. You do not know the calling on that person's life, nor do you know if that person could be an angel sent from heaven to come bless you. So just sometimes you just have to humble yourselves, and you have to be like, I'm going to follow Jesus, and I'm going to let him lead by example, and I'm going to follow him. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.